Have you ever been walking along in World of Warcraft and wondered how many steps it would take for you to go all the way from Tirisfal Glades down to Booty Bay? How long would that take? What's the in-game distance? The Eastern Kingdoms are a whole continent, right? So in theory, that's a long way to go. I went through the absolute torture to find it out for you with a level 1 character in WoW Classic. Oh, and did I mention I'm a Classic noob? There he is, in all his glory, our hero, Rpwalkin. And there I am, feed cam and all, ready to go. We get hit with our first challenge, the stability of Blizzard's Classic servers. Quickly overcome, we get started. The beginning in this starting area is pretty simple and easy. In my naive mind, I planned out a straightforward path from Tirisfal Glades through the eastern Plaguelands and then down the continent to Booty Bay. I'd bet at this point you either think I'm a dumbass, are confused how I think I'll be able to walk this planned path, or you're laughing because you know I'm in for trouble. Here's the thing. I'm notoriously bad with geography and have little to no knowledge of WoW Classic, and that includes the roads. So I, at this time, didn't know mountains, rivers, and more would be in between myself and my destination. Speaking of hurdles in the way, I naively thought the roads would be safe. As you can see here, they're not. It's at this time I'd like to remind you all, Rpwalkin is a level 1 toon. He's going to live up to his namesake. He isn't RP fighting, so I won't be. This challenge is all about the walk, and that includes the walk back to my body. Little did I know it at this point, but I would be getting real familiar with that angel and this music. Like, really, really familiar. But I won't torture you all with the slow and tedious walk back to my body. Just know that every time I die, I suffered the walk back. The good news is, though, we were back on track with no enemy mobs in sight and poised to cover a good amount of distance safely. And before I knew it, we had arrived in Brill. See past me? That wasn't so hard. Surely the rest will be a breeze, right? Yeah. No. Anyway, like I said, on track for a safe journey. Immediately contradicted. At this point, I was starting to think the roads probably wouldn't be so safe. Thankfully, getting back to my body was pretty easy, and we were on our way again. Or so I thought. Yeah, I was pretty tired of constantly dying at this point, so I decided to take the spirit healer up on their offer. And with that little boost, we got ourselves over to the western Plaguelands. Celebrating my small victory here, it kinda took me a second to catch on to what was happening, and by the time I did, it was obviously too late. Of course, as is tradition, the new zone welcomed us with a warm embrace, and I was very quickly becoming paranoid about mobs even remotely close to the road. And clearly with good reason, as this bear spotted me from miles away. Miles. Crossing my fingers while respawning, hoping I could outpath mobs was, needless to say, futile sometimes. Other times I felt like that girl in the couch meme. Other times still, I was getting sniped from across the map. But we did have some moments of peace where we could just walk and enjoy the scenery. Broken up by moments where a mob would clock me from a mile away, of course. Did I mention that I thought the roads were safe? Yeah. But regardless of the dangers, we pressed on through the western Plaguelands. Albeit with a handful of deaths. So the aggro range is on classic mobs. Can you tell at this point I think they're atrocious? And we made it to the top of this hill, where this random spider decided to give me the reach around from downtown. And again. And again. But finally we made it to the bridge connecting the western Plaguelands and the eastern Plaguelands. And again, if you know the roads of classic WoW, you might be wondering how I plan to make my way down from the eastern Plaguelands. That's the funny thing. At this point, I didn't know any better, but I quickly figured it out and had to do some substantial backtracking, including a few deaths, of course. Hey, I know, my name is Rpwalkin and I'm swimming, but hear me out. The best path I had ahead of me was through Thranduil River, and to be honest with you, the piece of the river was hella welcomed at this point. How long had I been suffering, taking 5 steps and being murked over and over and over on the roads by now? And hey, look, I wasn't safe for long. It was just a quick break. But with that detour, we were swiftly making our way toward the Arathi Highlands. And of course, the local denizens had to say hi. A very aggressive hi. After all that getting knocked down and getting back up, we made it to Thoradin's Wall and the entrance to the Arathi Highlands. It's important to note at this point, this is the end of day 1 for our journey, and we were already over 12,000 steps, which explains the lighting differences in the next clips. Forgive me for that, please. We get a few steps into the Arathi Highlands and, as is tradition, our aggressive welcome. Remember folks, I'm only level 2 at this point, and that means everyone one-shots me. So if something aggroes to me, I'm dead. By the way, why did that spider not aggro to that night elf that passed through? Why me? Respawning, we got back on track, and of course died. But at least the end of the Arathi Highlands to Thandal span gave us some time to enjoy the sights and be relatively safe. Relatively. And we swiftly found ourselves in the Wetlands. Whereupon we made a quick friend. It was definitely perturbed, at the very least, by the presence of a level 2 undead named Rpwalkin in this area. As soon as Gator came, he left us, but we wouldn't be without company for long. This is where we introduced the legendary Pope Frank. This Giga Chad of Azeroth not only gave us a res, but he kept us safe, kept us buffed, kept our health topped off, and kept aggro off us for the majority of the Wetlands. Just look at this absolute hero, kiting this crocodile to keep it off us, and he took time out of his day, leveling in Classic mind you, to give me an escort, which I know enough to know leveling in Classic is time consuming, to say the least. The only problem is, I didn't know where I was going, but I thought I did. Sadly, all good things must come to an end, and despite his best efforts, some of the gnolls would turn on me. I don't blame Pope Frank for leaving either, because, well, I was clearly lost, and to his perception, it probably looked like I was testing the lengths he would go to protect me. With the spirit healer's help, I found myself back on track, with my new destination being Menethil Bay, so I could reach the coast and actually make some progress. Sadly, without our protector, Pope Frank, it would be a perilous journey. Perhaps perilous isn't the right word, and death-filled would be more accurate. But we would eventually make it to the bay. And of course, with my experience with water being safe so far, I thought this would be smooth sailing. Of course, I was incorrect in that assumption. And it was in fact the furthest thing from smooth sailing. Thankfully, we reached the peaceful intermission portion of the video, and for a while, the most I had to worry about was fatigue and air. It was honestly a really welcome break from all the death and walks back to our body. Probably tell by the lighting, this is day 3, and we're already over 20,000 steps total, factoring for swimming and walks back to our body. But we had done enough swimming at this point. We're Rpwalkin after all, not Rp swimming. So we decided to take the spirit healer up on her offer and go through Darkshire down to Stranglethorn. Getting back on the road wasn't too bad, but we were in Alliance territory, so yeah. Thankfully, other than a few wildlife encounters and some patrols, making our way into Darkshire was pretty easy, and we took the river down towards Stranglethorn, being immediately welcomed by some extra angry fish, and choosing to use the spirit healer to start walking again. only to decide it was probably best to be back in the water. Even if the aquatic wildlife is less than friendly. That being said, the deaths at this point were really starting to get on my nerves because of how close I felt to my end goal of Booty Bay. And I was getting flashbacks of the couch meat. And Winton wouldn't leave me the fuck alone. Ah, finally, a peaceful trail with no enemies in sight. And they're not in sight because they're stealth. Kinda forgot about that. See this little shit? Yeah, you, Samantha. Why didn't you help me? Why? And ambushed off the trail. But we're getting so close at this point, I can taste it. Maybe that's just the taste of blood in my mouth from dying so much. Who knows? We suffered enough, so I took the spirit healer again from here, and we found ourselves at our destination. Booty Bay. We're finally here. After taking 34,363 steps, we made it. The only thing to do now is revel in the glory of it, and be thankful we can rest our feet. Into the bay we go, swim off into the sunset, as the journeys of Rpwalkin have concluded. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the journey. As much as it was painful for me, it was fun, and I'd like to do more. But I do want to know if there's interest or not. So if you made it to the end of the video, could you do me a favor and leave a comment telling me how you started on WoW? If this video gets at least 50 likes, I'll do Kalimdor next. Thank you so much for watching. Wishing you many dings and fat loots. Control, Shift, Lift. Signing off.